Welcome to Mars. We're very happy to get to interview you and have you here at the Winthrop-King Institute. So you are currently living and working in Amsterdam. My question is, what is a typical day in Tessa Mars's life? How does creating art differ in a country that's far from home? And how do you experience transnationalism as a person and as an artist?
A typical day for me starts with nothing. I wake up and I usually lay in bed for a very long time where I plan the work that I might do today. And it's part of my creative process, I think, where there's moments of intense activity and then moments of real quiet. And it's a learning process for myself to be at peace with these moments and how they come and go, the ebb and flow of it. Because sometimes I do feel like I should be working more, or that maybe I should be working less. And so during a creative or moment of intense creativity, I plan the whole day in my head when I wake up. And then the goal is to see how close to that plan I can stick out during the day. And so I go little out. I stay at home and I go to my workshop and I paint all day, and that's about it. Yes, truly. How being in Amsterdam has influenced that is that because going in, I had very little of a social network, I stayed in even more. And so life in Amsterdam is a kind of a closed-in time for me, especially when it's raining and there's no impetus to leave the studio. Then mostly in Amsterdam, you find me at work.
Okay, great.
So going back a little bit further, but still recently, so in 2019, you presented a solo exhibition at Le Centre d'Art in Port-au-Prince. So this institution has a historical importance on the cultural scene of Port-au-Prince and Haiti in general. So can you tell us a little bit about what it meant to have your work exposed there?
My involvement with the Centre d'Art started really in 2014. I mean, I knew about the Centre d'Art before, but it was not really a place where I would go first because I was a teen and it felt like a place for older people. And then because I left to study in France, and coming back, I was really trying to find my place into the cultural scene in Haiti. And somehow the Centre d'Art was not a reference for me. I knew about, and I liked a lot of the artists that had been through the Centre d'Art were involved in the creation of the institution. But for me, it was kind of a nebulous idea that there was this place that was so important to the art scene in Haiti, but it wasn't lived that way by me. And so when after the earthquake, it had to be reconstructed, rebuilt, that's the moment where I felt called to participate and contribute to the project of making the Centre d'Art back into a place that you cannot do without. And this is why it took a few years for me to get close to the team that was at the head of the Centre d'Art at the time, and to build relationship of trust, and to realize that actually we kind of want the same thing, and that is to be able to transmit this, to transmit knowledge. Knowledge and ideas, and to be able to have the space to exchange with young people and people coming from outside also. And I think trust was the most important part, because I needed to feel that my work was going to be well taken care of, respected, and me as well. And when everything aligned, it was just the dream, truly.
So in this exhibition in Port-au-Prince, a lot of your artwork was exposed, but I would like to take the time to talk about Tessa, so this character you created. What are for you the affordances of working with a fictional character, a fictional self, or an alter ego? And what did it allow you to express when you first created her? And can you talk also about its evolution, because Tessaline is never the same, and also what's the future of Tessaline?
Well, I mean, it's not something that I share often, but Tessaline started almost as a joke. And I'm someone that's always laughing, but I'm also prone to laughing by myself because of those crazy ideas that go through my head. And so in 2015, when I created Tessaline, there was all these political movements happening, and there were Petite Dessalines, the child of Dessalines, and it was all about which hero you were. I like you identified to, and I felt that this was a kind of a really superficial way of talking about the revolution and what it means. And I felt like, well, where do I belong in all of this? And it felt like the right time to figure out how to introduce myself into the narration of Haitian history, and to see how I could link past and present and struggles, and figure out, yes, what I think about all of this. And creating the alter ego, it was a matter of just taking the traditional representation of Dessalines and just making a little collage of my face on top of on top of his, and ta-da, that's what happens when you you work really late at night. But from this moment on, it has been a constant evolution for the character, trying to understand, well, besides just the humor that is important to me, and the commentary maybe about what is happening on the political scene, but what are the possibilities that are contained with this persona. And what I felt was that it allowed me so much freedom, because to reveal and not to keep certain things hidden, but at the same time putting everything out there up front about my spiritual beliefs, but also about my body. And so it has been an interesting device, I must say, where I'm also having conversations with myself, because Tessaline usually is either by herself or with me. So there's a kind of a double representation happening on the surface at the same time. And so as a way of, I guess, almost creating a diary and crystallizing certain moments of creation, or of documenting the questions that I have at a certain time. And I think that it has been really useful. But right now in my studio, Tessaline is kind of dying, but not as a permanent death, but as a kind of passage obligé. Death is also part of the story. And being that it's a fictional character, I can jump up and back and forth in the timeline however I want. So for now, that's what's happening.
When I look at your art, obviously I'm fascinated by the paintings, but I'm also always intrigued by your titles that often offer a particular gate to enter your work. And you have the painting, but then you also have the title that orients the gaze in a certain direction. So I was wondering also, because the titles are in so many languages, in English and Creole and French, could you talk a little bit about the politics of titles and giving names, and how this is linked to your aesthetic practice?
I work a lot with series, and so I can actually establish kind of a chronological reading of the work only based on the titles and the series, and it helps me understand how one idea folds into another. And so what will happen actually is that I will have a title for the series and not necessarily for the individual pieces that are part of the series. Because for me, this idea is almost having this sentence that I'm unfolding into different variations, if you want, if I can say it like that. And so titles for me are like having a key it is a key to read the work. Although of course you don't have to know it to see it. But I think especially when I feel that I'm maybe proposing a really Haitian vision and wanting to offer to a non-Haitian public a way of decoding if they want to. And so that's what happens to me. Sometimes I have a really hard time trying to come up with something I like. And so it will take maybe a couple months before a work ends up with a title. Yeah. And it's always something elaborate, I feel. But what happens is that also I can have many paintings with the same title because it just feels right.
Does it ever happen that the words come before the painting? The words of the title?
C'est la poule et l'œuf. Yes, it does. Yes, it does because, for example, there's this series called A Dream of Freedom, Dream of Death, and Liberté ou la mort is just part of the way. And so, yeah, it happens also.
Again, on titles.
Yes.
I have heard the curator of the 2019 exhibition talk about it, but I would like to ask you, what is your take on the exhibition's title and the choice of plurilingualism? So it was Il Modèle, Island Template, Maman Zile. So can you speak on this curatorial choice that?
Well, I must say, Verly was not the curator of the show. Just so you know, she wrote an article about it, right? But she had not even seen the show when she wrote it. You know, we had many exchanges online, and so that's just pour la petite histoire. The title came in collaboration with the director of the Centre d'Art à l'époque, Louise Perichon. And actually, I knew I wanted the three languages to be there, but besides Island Template, actually the title in English, I was stuck. And she's the one that actually said Mama Zile, and I was like, wow, yes, that's exactly that. It felt important at the time because I was showing my work for the first time, actually, in such a big, showing as many work. And I felt like only through the shifts in meaning that the three languages offer could I really have a title that could englobe all the work that I was doing, because I relate differently to all of these languages, and some I don't like. And I'm sorry to say to French people that are doing their research in French that the French language actually is the most difficult for me. And so, but it matters because I grew up with it and it has meaning. It has meaning in the Haitian context also. And it still matters. So actually, I have titles for my work usually in all languages except French.
Great.
So, still, along the theme of titles, the name of this conference for the Winthrop-King is Women's Words, Caribbean Worlds. So what role does gender play in your works? And do you find that gender expectations or norms have influenced your own personal journey, if at all?
Well, it's really my life story. I mean, we don't have to go back so much in time, but just with Tessa, the one of the questions I had when thinking about the Haitian Revolution and the history in general is what is the story that is being told about women in there? I mean, there are a certain number of women talked about in books, but overwhelmingly the majority of the actors, if you want, are men, and that never sat well with me. Because, I mean, I don't think we have to to explain this, but and this is maybe a question some people might be tempted to ask me, why Dessalines then, right? Why, I don't know, Défilé la Folle, or I don't know, why not engage with one of these women? But it was something for me about attacking this kind of, maybe attacking is a strong word, but facing, if you want, this idea of a father of the nation, and what it means when I feel like actually the community building is happening through women, and as it happens in my family, actually, in most of ours. And so in my work, the stories I'm interested to tell is the story of the Haitian people, of course, but mostly the stories of women. And actually most of the characters I paint are women. And I remember some weird discussion with the art historian that felt weird. Where are the men? Where are the men? And I'm like, well, I don't care. But also there is one male figure that is a recurring figure in my work, and that's my brother. And it takes it back to the fact that most of my work is autobiographical in a way, and most of the people are my family. And so as I work, I think about the women of my family, about their stories, and how to imagine and envision the legacy of these women and a better future for all of us.
So continuing on talking about your kind of personal creative process, in your interview with Le Centre d'Art in 2019, you kind of liken your creative process to a purging of sorts of the interior self. And I wanted to know more about this and how it's linked to vulnerability and your creative process in general.
First, I'm not going to elaborate really much, but one thing interesting is that when I talk about Tessa, it's not her, it's not him, it's they. It's not that I'm necessarily putting, thinking in terms of explaining a gender. It's more that they are mystical, if you want. And sometimes it's like, but it's so much my body, but it's a being, right? It's this more and more animal and fleshy character. So just that, if for your article. And so you were asking about
in the interview with Le Centre d'Art.
Oh, please say it again.
Yes, of course. So in the interview with Le Centre d'Art, you speak on your creative process and connect it
the purge. Wow. I was being very dramatic, I think. It's the creative process for me can be painful at times. The moments where it flows smoothly is actually the moments where the ideas come from a place of fun and joy. But with time, the work has become more and more serious, I feel, in a way. And so my whole thing is about how to recapture and refine the joy, because it's there. And even when what I'm more working towards are more joyful propositions, but there's a kind of a sobriety and somberness, I don't know if that's a word, that has taken over. And what that means is that it's a real reflection of where I am in my personal life, and it means that every piece is this moment of tightly squeezing and trying to understand and questioning the whole meaning of the universe, Yeah.
Okay. So change it up a little bit. Why do you continue making art, and what comes next for you in the future?
I continue making it because it's just I couldn't imagine not making it. Sometimes I fantasize about completely stopping creation, but I don't think that's possible. I think what I wish to disconnect for sometimes what would be the imperative of making it and making a living out of it, you know? So being productive and thinking, oh, you know, selling. I think that's the part that sometimes can feel like a burden. But making the work itself, it's so much a part of who I am and the way I understand the world, actually. So that would not happen. I mean, coming up next in October this year, I'm going to have my first solo in a museum in the Netherlands, and that is a big deal. I'm really excited and nervous. But yeah, looking forward to that.